Welcome to the RFP Success Show with host Lisa Rehurik, the #1 sought-after authority on RFP success. Each week, we bring you information, strategies, or resources to help you win more business through RFPs and have a little fun doing it. Let's get this week's episode started.
Hello, everybody. Excited to have you on the RFP Success Show today. And today we have Amy Schuman. Amy is the National Marketing Director for Myers & Stauffer. And she's also one of my expert contributors to the RFP Success book. And she's here today to talk about her expertise with the responding to RFPs because she's been doing this for a while and she is a rock star. So I'm excited to be here. Amy, welcome to the RFP Success Show.
Thanks, Lisa. It is great to be here. You and I go way back, don't we?
We
to
do.
Our state Medicaid.
To our state Medicaid days. Yeah, I met Amy a long time ago, probably, 15, 20 years ago now, right?
I think so.
Yeah. We used to go to this Medicaid Directors Conference. I know you guys are all jealous listening to that. And we were both responding to RFPs in our early days and doing marketing for our companies. So we've watched each other grow in this RFP space, and I'm excited for our listeners to be able to hear some of your advice and expertise and strategies, because I've watched how much you've taken Myers & Stauffer and really grown the business, grown their success rate with RFPs, and grown your staff, because how many staff do you have now?
We are officially at 10 staff. So when I first joined Myers & Stauffer 20 years ago, this last May, it was myself and one other person that were responsible for responding to RFPs. And we just added our 10th person this month.
Yeah, and that's so amazing because I think for a lot of the listeners on the call will be saying, oh my gosh, I'm the only one that does RFPs. I'd love to have 10 people. Just know that, that growth is possible, right? You've seen that right before your eyes.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely possible to do with one or two people as well. So all of it is scalable.
It is all scalable. Were you doing anything with RFPs prior to Myers & Stauffer, or was that your first kind of entry into it?
Actually, my second job out of college, I was a proposal writer for a company in the architecture and engineering space. So I really started out writing architecture RFPs, and I'm trying to think, it was for hospitals, was the business unit, their healthcare department. So I started out many, many years ago and then went into another career and then came back to this.
Oh, it just draws you right back in.
That it does. That it does, my friend.
I know. I left my company, the company that I obviously responded to RFPs with, and now I have a business doing it. Who would have thought? So I guess it gets in our blood and we can't give it up. That's awesome.
Right.
Let's talk about how many RFPs you guys respond to on an annual basis. Like, what's an average of how many RFPs you guys respond to?
Okay, that's kind of a fun number, and I'm going to give you a little bit of context.
Yay.
So 20 years ago, with just two people, we were responding on average maybe anywhere from 20 to 30 RFPs in a year. So 2 a month, maybe 3 a month at times, was really what we thought was a full load. Then about 5 years ago, we acquired another firm. And from that moment on, the number of RFPs we respond to has just grown exponentially. And I think this year we may even hit 150, which is a record. So every year we have improved on that record, and it's gone from 100 to 120, 130, and I really think we're going to hit 150 this year.
That is amazing. And so what's cool about that is the comment you had a little while ago about it is scalable, right? I would guess you had to put some serious processes in place in order to scale up, right?
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
We had to be really flexible too with that process. What does it look like for 2 people? What does it look like for 10 people? And the process kind of shifted and adapted as we got bigger. And that's been kind of part of the fun too, is figuring out how to make that work.
Yeah. And that's actually a really important point. It's not just about putting in like this structure and this process, and that's just the way it goes. We've got to continue to ebb and flow with it as we grow. And I would guess even with your 10 people, you're still looking at those processes on occasion. How can we get better? How can we eliminate? How can we add? Whatever that looks like. Would that be a correct statement?
Absolutely. Yes. We've, for example, built in different checkpoints along the process. So there's ways now to capture if one of our partners wants to bid on something, they might have to do an internal check for conflicts of interest or an internal check with our IT department. And we're now able to process that and maintain it and keep records on that for each of our proposals. So it just helps upper management in running the business as well.
Yeah, I mean, with 150 RFPs, what percentage of your business, if you know this even, would you say is based on RFPs versus just based on, a salesperson going out and getting the business? I'm
Let's
putting
see.
you on the spot with that question. Sorry.
You are putting me on the spot, but the percent is so high that I might be off by 1% or 2. But I would say we're close to 95 to 100% of our business comes in through the RFP process.
Yeah.
So Myers and Stauffer only works for state, federal, and local government agencies. So that is really the main way that we procure all of our work. It's through the competitive process.
Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. And so, it's kind of interesting because I do talk to a lot of people that are like, yeah, our strategy is to not ever have to bid on an RFP. And I'm like, well, then you clearly don't do work with the government.
Right.
That doesn't really work that way, right?
No, it doesn't.
Well, let's talk about some of the good stuff because you are so good at proposals and obviously, what we've talked about in your experience and how you've grown this and all of that. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the mistakes. And I know we never love to talk about our mistakes, but we learn from them, right? We learn and we grow, and there's a lot that comes out of that. So what are some of your biggest mistakes that you've made over the years, or any stories around those mistakes that you're willing to share?
You could probably look at our RFP process and trace every step in the process back to a mistake that we've made throughout the years. So every mistake has become a learning opportunity and a reason to really flex and change the process up a bit. I'm trying to think of the biggest mistakes. Procrastinating is probably the number one mistake.
Ooh.
Wait until next week. Well, I'll get started on that next week. I'll put the resumes together right beforehand, before the proposal goes out, and that's always wrong. We need to do as much as we can from the moment the RFP lands, because sure enough, if you wait, 3 more RFPs are going to come out that same day, and then all of a sudden you're buried. So even though you think you might have the luxury of time on your calendar, you really don't. You have to prepare for the unexpected on that. So that's probably my biggest mistake over the years, was putting things off when I should have started right away.
Yeah. And that goes for other leadership too. Like, I don't know about you, but I have clients all the time that procrastinate even looking at the RFP. And then they call me and they're like, oh my gosh, we only have 2 weeks left. And I'm like, what happened to the other 4 weeks that they had given you?
All right. We now have a process where all RFPs are discussed, and the decision to bid or not bid is really pushed to be made within a week.
Oh,
so
good.
We're not dragging our feet on a lot of these anymore just because you don't have time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true.
I'm trying to think of another mistake. Not proofreading thoroughly would be a mistake that we've learned.
Brutal.
To the point where now, once every copy has been made of the proposal, it might be in a binder, we flip through page by page by page and review all of the major sections one last time before it goes in the box. And at that point in the process, we have caught typos on the cover page. We've caught typos in the RFP number. We've caught typos in our headers or miscalculations in a cost proposal before.
Oh,
so
that's scary.
It's very scary. So it's super important to proofread. And I've learned that over the years too. So those are probably my top 2.
Yeah. And it's funny because in the book, when you contributed your expertise to my book, you actually talk about how important that final look is, because how easy it is to make mistakes. There's always probably going to be something else that you find, and how important that final look is. And that's kind of what you're saying, right? That last look before it goes in the box.
Absolutely. Very, very important. We have 3 proposals going out the door today.
Yikes.
And we've sat down around a table, and I've had probably no less than 5 people sitting around the table with me flipping through these books. And if there's ever a proposal that goes out that once we review it, if we're not finding a mistake at that point in the process, we get really nervous that we're not finding something, because we almost always find something that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Almost always.
Yeah,
And it's also important during that final review to get some fresh eyes on the proposal itself, someone who hasn't looked at it for the last month.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, it's one of the biggest services that my company offers. And you and I were just talking about this because I am doing a review on a proposal for one of my clients that you actually are partnering with on. But that's exactly what I did. We go in and we do that objective view and we can see things completely different. But yeah, if you've got somebody internally that hasn't been working on that proposal, that objective review is so, 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 so important. I 100% agree with you.
Agree. And then, Lisa, I think you do this too, tying it back to the RFP. So you're actually reviewing the requirement in the RFP against the actual proposal that we prepared to make sure that all requirements have been met, right?
Yeah, and the evaluation criteria, because, I'll tell you, I was just reviewing one for another client, and I said, the section's great, but y'all are not tying it at all to the evaluation criteria. Like, you're answering the question, which is good, because frankly, that's a big hurdle sometimes. Sounds crazy, but it is. A lot of times you forget about the evaluation criteria because we're so buried in all of the pieces of the puzzle. But yeah, absolutely. So let's talk now about more of your kind of lessons learned. But what are your top lessons that you feel like you've learned? So not necessarily mistakes, but the top lessons you've learned over the years of your responding to RFPs.
Probably the biggest lesson is being able to target the response to what the client actually needs. So we have a tendency to store a lot of boilerplate proposal material on our hard drive so that we can cut and paste into the next response. And I think the biggest mistake would be just to cut and paste without taking a fresh look at how does this really actually apply to what the client is asking for. And we've taken that to the level of, at the very beginning, we have a kickoff call with the proposal writing team. All of our technical experts are on that call, and we articulate at least 3 main differentiators that sets us apart from the competition. What do we want our client to learn about Myers and Stauffer and our ability to work for them once they read our proposal? And if we can't articulate that, the proposal's not going to do a very good job of selling it. So I think that's probably one of the most important things to do in the beginning, and then to keep that really at the forefront of what you're writing throughout the process.
That is huge, huge, huge. And if y'all didn't catch that, or even if you did, I want you to rewind and listen to that again, because that is such an important, huge part. Don't you feel like sometimes we get really robotic in our responses? It's like we're just so technical about, let's just respond to the question and keep moving. And we're not really thinking about the fact that this is a sale. We're trying to sell it. We're trying to make sure they understand that we understand their challenge and that we've got the right solution.
Right. And that really means you need to get to know that client or that prospective client and understand where their pain points are, what keeps them up at night, so that you can really become the solution for them. And it's easy to see that, and then becomes easy to select your proposal as the winning one.
Yes. That right there is golden, golden, golden. And if you think you guys are doing it, I tell you what, make sure that you are revisiting that whole strategy, because that will set you apart. Like I said, rewind it. You need to listen to it again. All right. What else? What's another top lesson that you've learned?
Oh, top lesson would be, this might sound minor, but to me it's big. And that is always shipping the proposal out 2 days early. Or being 2 days ahead of the deadline. When I first started in the industry, there was a tendency to really take the deadline up until the final moments. And I've been part of responses where we put it on an airplane, or we hand deliver, or it might even need to be faxed page by page. And that just creates stress, a lot of room for error. And in our industry, if your proposal is late, it does not get evaluated.
Yeah.
So really trying to be 2 days ahead. And that helps in the winter with snowstorms and FedEx deliveries getting delayed. So that would probably be one of my main lessons. And we work really hard, and the whole company is really on board with that 2-day deadline now. It's been really nice.
Yeah, and it does make a difference. I love how you said that about, like, when you're pushing it up right to the end. Yeah, can you do that? Sure. Can you put somebody on a plane? Sure. But everybody's under stress, and it does leave a lot more room for mistakes, like you said. And I think that managing that expectation and getting your company on board, that's a culture shift, but you were able to do that. And now everybody knows this is the day that we ship it, and that's that, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So for all of you listening, if you think your company can't shift their habits around that, think again. They can, I promise.
I think another important lesson I've learned too is the importance of cross-training our team. And this probably applies more for proposal teams that are larger rather than the smaller ones. But you really need more than one person who knows the RFP template that we have, that knows how to create an org chart in a separate software program, that can do a Gantt chart in another program. You need more than one person who knows how to make a proposal 508 compliance. Just the more depth you can provide there, the better off you'll be in the long run too.
At what point did you realize that was so important? Like, was it at 5 employees? Do you know when that was?
Really, from growing from 2 on, you couldn't just have one person be the expert and the only one who knows how to do something, because invariably something will happen and that person will be out the day that you need to make a change to the org chart. I mean, I promise that will happen. I see it all the time. So you just need to know more than one thing in that area.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So those are some great lessons. And you said something earlier, Amy, where you said this might seem like something small. Don't you find that there's so many small things that we can do with the RFP process and with our responses that make humongous differences?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Another example of that, and this is something we've kind of implemented in the last few years, we try to do smaller call out boxes in the middle of the big text of a 50-page section. A few call out boxes within that proposal really makes it easier for the evaluator and the reader to find your high points. And I think easier to evaluate you in the long run too.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. And just that more visual interest in some of these RFPs, it can get, in our responses, it can get so dry. And, I don't know, we get bored reading them. Our evaluators sure are going to as well. I love
Agree.
it. So if you think back to your days when it was just you and one other person, what advice would you give? Because I do have a lot of small businesses that are listening, and either they don't have any dedicated people and it's the business owner, or, they pull a half a person here and a half a person there, or maybe they've just got one person. What advice would you give to the small businesses who are really struggling to win RFPs? What would some of your advice be for them?
I think one of the first things I would do would be to set up systems to have in place where you capture all of your information. So get the easy stuff done first. Have resumes already created for each of your employees that you plan on putting in a proposal. Have your experience really already written for each project you've worked on that you plan on using in a proposal. Have all the details together, the cost, the people involved, the time frame. All of that should be in one place. So those are the easy parts of a proposal that you should just be able to kind of drop in, and then you're able to spend more time on the content.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great tip. Instead of waiting till the end for all of it and it's all scrunched together.
Absolutely. Do as much ahead as possible.
Yeah.
That's right. And then we always create, if you create an outline from the very beginning when the RFP comes in, that also helps make the response a little bit easier to manage, because you can tell where you're at in the process, making sure that all of the requirements have been addressed as well.
Great points. Great advice. I love it. I love it. So do you have a favorite win? Like maybe one that was a really big push for you all. You didn't feel like you had a high chance of winning. Any cool favorite win that you could share with us?
Oh, I have several in my that we've done over the years. I think my all-time favorite wins are when we are able to unseat an incumbent.
Yes.
So another firm has been there and been entrenched in that position for a long time with the client. And when we're able to come in with a fresh solution and win, it is very, very satisfying to be able to do that. That's probably what keeps me in the business as long as I have. I love that part of it. The other part that I love is, so we only basically work, for the government. So 50 states, we have a map of all the states. So we color in each state as we work in it. So over the years, it's been really, really fun to see the map just become in full color. So every time we're able to color in a new map is also a really great win for me. I
That's
love
so
those.
fun. And back to the one about unseating the incumbent, because I have clients that say this all the time. It's impossible to unseat an incumbent. It's not impossible. Is it hard? Yes. So what do
Right.
you contribute that success to? When you've really successfully unseated an incumbent, what do you think that you did differently than maybe the incumbent did?
A lot of it can be price, sure, but it's not only based on price. I think our technical experts, the partners and principals that run the firm, I think they have a really good idea of what's happening in that client space, and they're able to address it in a new way in our proposal. So I think it's really understanding the landscape, the environment, and where that client is coming from, or the prospective client, I guess, is coming from in that regard. And again, it's tailoring the proposal and really understanding what that client needs.
Yeah, and that goes back to that first point at the beginning of the call here, at the beginning of the podcast that you talked about. And that is so important. So I love that advice. All right, so we are wrapping up now. Anything else you want to share based on your expertise and your experience in responding to RFPs?
Oh, I think it's just really important to remember the proposal process is really a team approach. It's not one proposal writer getting something out the door. It's really being able to work with people at all levels of the firm and to manage a process and get written content that's good out of people who are already busy doing client deliverables and have a lot on their plate too. So it's managing a process, keeping it fun, keeping it light, and being able to gear up for the next one time after time and keep winning. So
yes, and you guys have done such a great job at that. Actually, one more quick question. Do you track your win percentage, and are you willing to share that with us?
I absolutely. Right. Yeah, I am. I'm willing to share because we're super proud of it here. Our win rate has maintained right around 70% for the last 20 years. As long as I've been working here, we've been tracking it. And no matter if we're bidding on 30 or 130, it has stayed pretty level.
And
so I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, you should be. That's a huge number.
Honestly, Lisa, I think that goes back to our partners make really good decisions on whether or not to bid or not bid on a potential project. And that's what that number really reflects.
Yeah, and it starts there, right? You guys can do as much as you can do of your job, but if it's the wrong opportunity and you have no business bidding on it, you guys can do the best job in responding to it, and it's still going to be a losing proposition. So it does start there with that upfront strategy and making sure they know what they're doing. And then, of course, a huge portion of that is attributed to your team and the job that you guys do, because that's a phenomenal number, 70%.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
congratulations. You. Yay. Well, Amy, thank you so much for being here. I really greatly appreciate it, because I love to have my listeners be able to hear from other people that are doing the same thing that they're doing, and hearing the successes and, what some of the pitfalls have been, because we all struggle with it as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lisa.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening to the RFP Success Show. If you want to hear more from Amy, again, she gave us a really nice contribution to the book. Just go to the rfpsuccessbook.com and you can get your book there. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
You have been listening to the RFP Success Show with RFP expert Lisa Reherik, author of the RFP Success Book. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, make sure you click the subscribe button so you don't miss a show. And thanks for spending time with us today.